Tips and ideas for keeping a clutter-free home when you have young children. But the question is it even possible? And my answer, of course, is yes and no. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about some tips that I have. I have 10 tips for you today on keeping a clutter-free and clean home. But of course, I want to start this video by saying I am by no means perfect in this area. I am a work in progress. And these are just some ideas that I've found along the way that have helped me to keep a clutter-free home, or at least to try to keep it clutter-free most of the time. I know for me, it can be really challenging to keep clutter and everything in its place as it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I know for me, it's so helpful to have a clean home, to have a clear space. It helps me mentally to be more focused. It helps me to enjoy my space more. I'm at home most of the time with my two young boys, and so I know for me, having a space that's clean and clutter-free really just helps me mentally, and it helps me to enjoy my space. But as with all things, with mothering and with parenting, have grace on yourself. There are seasons when you may have more clutter than others. I know during my first trimester of this latest pregnancy, I was so tired and wiped out, and the house was a mess a lot of the time. And I just let it be that way for the first, I would say, 6 weeks to 8 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer. And I just had grace there. I had grace on myself. My husband had grace. We all just had grace on each other for that season. And so that was just a season of time when, for me, it was more important to get sleep and to get rest. And so just know that there are seasons when you may have more energy, when you may not, you may have more time. And so take all of this just with grace on yourself in this season of parenting. And if you're not a parent, the first 7 tips that I give today are for anybody, really. You don't have to be a parent. You don't have to have young children. These are just tips and tricks and ideas for anybody. And then the last 3 that I'm going to give are specifically for when you have young kids at home. So follow along with me, and I hope you enjoy this. Okay, tip number 1. I remember my mom used to say this. I don't remember where she got this saying from, but she used to say it when I was growing up, and it really is so true. And the saying is, a place for everything and everything in its place. So as much as you can, I think the first step is having a place for everything in the home. I know for me, one of the biggest culprits of clutter is items that come into the home and I don't know where to put them. And so I end up putting them on the counter, or I shove them in the corner of the pantry, or I just want to get rid of them, and then it just builds up from there. And so if you can take 5-10 minutes and sort through those items and say, okay, first of all, do I need this? And if not, get rid of it. If you do need it, then figure out where is its home. Where can I put this so that as soon as I'm done using it or I take it out, I can put it back in its place. And so for me, that has really helped, just to take the time to organize and to find a place for things so that when I'm done with them, I know exactly where they go. So that's my first tip, is find a place, a home, as the saying goes. Find a home for everything in your home so that when you're done using it, you know exactly where to put it back. Along with that, though, I will say is you have to be consistent about putting it back. And I know that takes a little bit of extra effort in the moment, and I'm not great about this, especially if I'm coming home and I'm tired. I want to just throw my jacket down. I want to just take my shoes and flop them by the door and throw my purse down. And then before you know it, everything's added up. But try as much as possible to be consistent with putting the things back in their place, because everything can have a home, but if you're not consistent about putting it back in its home, then it's going to do you no good. So consistency is key. And really, the reality is it takes maybe an extra 30 seconds to a minute to put it back away, and then you have a clear space. So try to be consistent about putting things back away right when you're done using them, or at least very shortly after. I would also like to say with this first tip is be easy on yourself. If it's too challenging or difficult to do, you're not going to be consistent about it. So, for example, if you come home and your keys are out and you know that you're not going to go put it in your purse that's in the room, Well, then get a key rack to hang by the front door so you can just easily put your keys there. I know we have one that we hang by our front door and that all the keys get hung there on the key rack. If you know that you're not going to go all the way back to your bedroom and put your shoes away when you get home, buy a shoe rack that can fit by your front door or your back door or your garage door, wherever you come in, so that you can just slip your shoes off and you can put it on that shoe rack. Do things and find ways that it can make it easier on yourself to put those items back where they belong. Because otherwise, if you don't, the reality is you're not going to be consistent about putting them away. Okay. Tip number 2 is to declutter your items regularly. So what does that mean? Maybe it's a weekly thing you do, maybe it's a monthly thing that you do. I guess it kind of depends on how much stuff you accumulate. We have a pretty small space right now, so it's important that we don't let too much stuff build up. And already as it is, I know that I need to declutter our garage and our closets and our pantry, even with our small space that we have. So try to find a regular time, whatever works for you. Maybe it's a daily thing at the end of the day you declutter, but try to regularly declutter and get rid of things and be honest about the items that you have. Like, do you really need it? I know for me, I can struggle with throwing things away or getting rid of them, and I'm trying to be better about just being honest with myself. Do I need this? Do my boys really need this? Are we ever going to use it? Maybe it could go to a better home where someone else could use it. So try to declutter regularly so that stuff doesn't accumulate. Okay, tip number 3 is have a box or a drawer or someplace in your house where you put unsorted mail that you need to keep, or even just loose papers. If it's receipts maybe you get from the store, mail, anything that it's loose papers, you don't want to throw them out, you need to sort through them, but you don't maybe have time in that moment to go through it. I know for me, this is another big culprit of clutter is unsorted mail or loose papers, and I'm trying to be better about having a place where I put all of those until I can sit down, sort through them, decide if I need to recycle them, decide if I need to file them away, or decide what I need to do with them. And so I have a drawer in our little office space, a drawer that's just devoted to my loose papers, and then I also have a little folder that I keep loose receipts or mail that I need to go through later. And I try to be consistent about putting all of that away. Like I said, I'm a work in progress with this. But I know for me, if I don't do this, the mail and the loose papers will just start piling up, and then there's the clutter. So that's my tip number 3, is that you have some sort of a box or a drawer or something where you can put your loose papers that you will later sort through and organize. Okay, tip number 4 is to break down your laundry into smaller loads every day. I know I've heard other women on YouTube talk about this, and I think this is a really great idea, because if you don't, then it's like you've got a laundry day, all the laundry piles up, and you're just overwhelmed with laundry to wash, to dry, to fold, maybe to iron, to hang up, and it just becomes overwhelming. And so this is an area that I am working on being better at, is not only doing the smaller loads of laundry every day, but folding them right away. And so I think the best thing for that is to try to figure out a time of the day when you can fold it. So maybe it's if you watch TV in the evening, maybe you relax and watch TV. Take your load of laundry with you, sit on the couch and fold it while you watch. Maybe while your kids take a nap, you have some quiet time, you can put on a good audiobook, or you can watch TV, or whatever it is you do to relax, and you can sit and fold laundry then. Maybe it's while dinner's cooking, if you've put something in the crock pot or in the oven and you've got a little bit of time to sit and to do some laundry. Whatever works for you, try to find a time that you can regularly sit down, fold the laundry, and put it away right away. Otherwise, it will just pile up and clutter your home. So this tip is kind of twofold. The first part is to be consistent about doing smaller loads of laundry every single day. And then the second part is be consistent about folding it right away and putting it back where it belongs, whether that's hanging it up or putting it in a drawer. Okay, tip number 5 is have certain times of the day when you clean up. And this is especially helpful if you have young kids and there are toys that they're playing with or crafts or whatever it might be. The reality is you're not going to want to follow your kid around all day cleaning up after them. You're just going to exhaust yourself and it's just going to make you upset. And part of the joy of childhood is making a mess and is playing with your toys and letting them have fun. But find certain times in the day when you set aside to cleaning up. So for me, my boys are both young enough, they still take a nap at the same time every day. So right before nap time, they come and they help me and we clean up toys. And then once I put them down, I clean up and try to tidy up the rest of the house, whether that be our dishes from lunch or laundry or vacuuming, whatever it might be. I try to take that time during the day to do some tidying up. Sometimes maybe you don't get to all of it. That's totally okay. You figure out what works best for you or what's going to help you the most. Maybe it's doing the dishes. Maybe you just don't like to see dirty dishes in the sink. We'll take that time to tidy up the kitchen, and maybe you don't worry about the laundry at that moment. Whatever you're able to do, but that is a good time for me, I know, to help tidy up and to get things cleaned up. And then the next time that I tidy up is right before bedtime. So once again, I try to get my boys to come help me. They pick up their toys, and then I'll pick up, once I put them down to bed, I'll pick up whatever else in the house that needs to get tidied up. Once again, doing dishes, whatever it might be. So those are my 2 times during the day. Maybe that doesn't work for you, but try to find what works for you. Maybe it's before you go to work every morning, you tidy up, or whatever it might be, but try to find regular times during the day when you spend 5-10 minutes tidying up your house. Okay, tip number 6 is to clean while you cook. I've been trying to be better about this because I can tend to make a real mess when I cook, and then I'm tired because I've spent all that time cooking. We have dinner, I'm full, and then we've got all of these dishes and food and produce and everything's out. And so my husband does help with the evening dishes, but I try to make it easier on him by, when I'm cooking and maybe something's some chicken's frying on the stovetop or something's in the oven, I take that time to try to tidy up the kitchen. So maybe that's throwing stuff away in the trash can, maybe that's unloading the dishwasher, maybe that's loading some of my dirty dishes up into the dishwasher, maybe wiping down some of the tables. We also have a small kitchen, and so if I let too much stuff pile up, then I don't have any room to work anymore or any space. So that's another reason that I've started working towards being better about this, is because I need my counter space to cook, and if I have stuff everywhere, then I've run out of counter space. So it's actually been good for me having a smaller kitchen, because it means that I have to be better about keeping it tidy. So that's my next tip, is to clean while you cook, and you or whoever does your dishes will thank you for doing that. Okay, tip number 7 is to keep on top of your dishes. So have a regular routine that you do with your dishes. For me, I unload the dishwasher every morning. I eat breakfast with my boys. My husband doesn't eat breakfast. He does intermittent fasting. So it's just my boys and I in the morning eating breakfast. And so I eat breakfast with them. I usually get done a little bit before they do. So I'll get up and I'll start unloading the dishwasher while they finish breakfast. And then throughout the day, whenever we're done with dishes, so lunch dishes, or as I'm cooking dinner, the dinner dishes that I start to dirty, I will load those in the dishwasher so that they don't pile up. The days when I haven't done this, it just gets so overwhelming with dishes in the evening, and I don't like it. So I try to do a really good job of loading the dishwasher and keeping it loaded so that we don't have dirty dishes sitting in the sink. Once again, have grace on yourself. I know for us, if we come home on a Sunday afternoon, we get out of church, we've had a long morning at church, we eat lunch, I might let those dishes sit until the evening. Like, it really depends on what's going on that day. There are some days when I'm just exhausted, I'm wiped out, and I want to take a nap instead of doing the lunch dishes. So when I put my boys down, I go take a nap with them, and I'll do the dishes when I wake up from a nap. So, of course, have grace on yourself for whatever season you're in and whatever's going on that day. But as a general rule, try to stay on top of the dishes so that they don't pile up at the end of the night. And that will help you to keep a tidier home. Okay, these last 3 tips are specific for children, and this is tip number 8, and that is to have a catch-all basket for your kids' toys. I actually got this idea from my mother-in-law when we were living with my in-laws. She actually purchased this basket, and she was gracious enough to let me take it with us when we moved out. But this basket has been wonderful because I keep it here in the living room, and then when we have nap time or when it's bedtime in the evening, I either, if there's enough time for them to go around and help clean up, then they'll put all of their toys into the basket. Or maybe if I'm running late that day and they're late for their nap and I just want to put them down right away, then I'll just go through myself and I'll put toys in the basket. But this is devoted to their toys. This is the basket for all of their toys. So anything that's out in the main area, I put it or they put it in this basket. And we'll either just leave it there for later, or we'll sort through it, we'll take it to their room. They like to dump it out. They like to carry it to their room or pull it to their room and then dump it out when they get there. So we'll either do that and then clean up in the room, or maybe just leave it there for later, so that at least the main area of the house stays clean. So this has been wonderful, so I highly recommend a catch-all basket. And it doesn't actually have to be just for toys. It could be for yourself too, but usually it's toys that end up all over the floor everywhere. So this is great for that. Okay, tip number 9 is to get your kids to help out with cleanup. And so I know for me, this was something that I didn't do very well for a long time, mostly because of my own impatience. I was tired and I wanted to put my boys down for a nap and just do the cleanup quickly by myself, because it would just take me a couple minutes if I did it on my own. And if I got them to help me, it might take me twice as long or 3 times as long to get them to clean up all the toys, keep reminding them to pick up the toys, put them in the basket. But what has actually helped me is the last, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks of this pregnancy. So for the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've actually been having more back issues where bending over and squatting up and down and all the up and down movement, picking up things off the ground, is just really hard on my back. And so it's actually been good for me because it's forced me to be better and more consistent about having my boys help me. And I'll upload a little clip right now so you can see an example of how I get them to help me. I might sing to them. I have a little silly song that I sing when it's cleanup time. So I'll show you that clip right now so you can see what I'm talking about. It's time to clean up toys. It's time to clean up toys. One by one we pick them up. It's time to clean up toys. Oh, not the dump truck. That's too big to go in the basket. Let's put the little toys in the basket. So this is a really great way to get your kids involved. Make it fun. Do a silly song with them, or have a little rhyme. If you don't like to sing, then maybe have a little rhyme that you can do, but something that gets them excited about cleanup. And I also shamelessly bribe them with candy. It was Easter a few days ago, and so for me, we still have Easter eggs, and so I say, okay, you get an Easter egg with candy, and if you clean up all your toys, then you'll get another Easter egg with your candy. And of course, they love that, and they quickly clean up. I think I have another clip that I can add right here showing just how diligently they're working when they know they're going to get their Easter egg with candy after. I shamelessly use rewards. They get one of their Easter eggs once they're all done picking up their toys. Keep picking up and put them in the basket. Good job. So those are 2 ideas. The most important thing is to be consistent with them. At first, it's going to be hard. When I first started trying to get my boys to help clean, I had to tell them, I had to point at every toy and say, pick this toy up and put it in the basket. Now pick this toy up and put it in the basket. And it was a little frustrating, but if you're consistent with it, then they will get really good at just knowing, okay, it's time to clean up. And you know, my boys are still very little, so I don't expect them to put everything in the exact spot that I would want it. So their main way of helping to clean up is putting the toys in this catch-all basket and dragging it to the room. And then when we get to the room, there are some toys that they know how to put away. So for example, I have this bag of blocks, and my older son, Josiah, he knows that all of these colored blocks go in this bag. And so I can have him help with that. I can have him clean up the blocks. I just say, put all of the blocks in the bag, and he knows to go put them all in the bag and to zip it up when he's done. The other day, my younger son, Joshua, he's about to be 2, I have this basket where just their Hot Wheels, just any little miscellaneous vehicles go in this basket. And so I said, put all of your vehicles in the basket. And he knew to go through the room to pick up all the vehicles and to put them in this basket. So those are some ways that they can help clean their room. And then if it's specific things that need to be put in certain spots, I'll do that myself because they're still a little young. But I try to find ways to get them to help clean up their room along with me. Or if they have books on the ground, they know to put it in their bookshelf. So those are some ways that they can help me clean up their room. Okay, my last tip number 10, is to do toy rotation. So I am by no means a pro or an expert at this, but I have started doing this because my boys had so many toys and they just would go through their room and literally take every toy out, take every book off the bookshelf, and the room would be a complete disaster. And then I would have to spend half an hour, 45 minutes cleaning it up. And I said, I'm done doing this. And I don't want to get rid of their toys because they're nice toys and they do enjoy playing with them, but there were just too many of them all at once. So I take about half of their toys. I divide it, so if they have, let's say, 10 trucks, I'll take 5 of their trucks and I just store it away in the closet. I don't have like a fancy bookshelf or anything. I just store them away in the closet in some plastic bins. I do the same thing with any other toy they have. If they have like multiple puzzles, I'll put one of the puzzles away and I'll keep one of the puzzles out. And then I try to rotate it every couple of weeks. And this is great because cleanup takes less time. And then it's also like when I do the rotation and I bring the new toys out, my boys are like, oh, I haven't seen this toy in 3 weeks, and they're excited to play with it again. So I love toy rotation. Once again, it takes a little bit more time on my part. I have to go through and figure out which toys I want to put away, which toys I want to keep out, and then I actually have to do the rotation. So a little bit more effort on my part, but I think it's worth it to not only first of all, have the extra cleanup time every day, but also to make it more exciting for my boys to play with their toys and to be excited about them. So there you have it, 10 tips of mine for helping to keep a clean and clutter-free home, particularly when you have young children or toddlers at home. I hope these tips were helpful for you. I hope you got a good idea or a couple good ideas for them. And most importantly, just remember that have grace on yourself. It's challenging being a parent and it's exhausting, and sometimes you just might not have the energy for it. And like I said at the beginning of this video, we have seasons in our parenting. So if you're in a season where you're exhausted or where you just need to rest more, give yourself that freedom to rest. But if you are looking for ideas on how to keep a home clutter-free and more clean, then hopefully these ideas helped you. And remember, most importantly, that your children are going to remember a home that was filled with joy and laughter more than they're going to remember a home that was perfectly clean all of the time. So take that with you as you end this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time.